In today's video, we're talking about Scottsdale City Court DUI cases. In particular, we're talking about one court date known as a Trial Readiness Conference. This is the final court date before your case goes to trial. Sometimes you can have one or two different TRCs, we call them, Trial Readiness Conferences, but it's really the final date before a potential trial or before you take a plea deal. So it's important you understand what happens at a TRC. We're going to walk you through it right now. The Trial Readiness Conference in Scottsdale DUI cases, it really is getting near the end of a case. So you're almost done with your situation. Either you can take a plea deal at this court setting, or the alternative is to reject the plea deal by the government and set your case for a trial. In other videos, I talk about the preceding court dates. So the arraignment, which is the first court date, the pre-trial conference, which is the second court date, the case management conference, which is the third court date. And now we're talking about the fourth court date, the one right before a trial. So it's important you watch those other videos so you can put this in context. But in the CMC video, the case management conference video, I talked about all the different things that the judge wants to know, whether they've been done or not. Things like scheduling interviews, completing interviews with witnesses or officers, the blood test, whether the blood was tested or not, whether we're going to be doing a retest or not, whether we have any expert witnesses we're going to be using. All of those different issues are very important. At the CMC, the case management conference, the judge wants to know about an update on that. They want to know whether this stuff has been completed or if there are any problems. At the TRC, if there were any problems identified at the CMC, the judge is going to want an update on that. So the judge will say, okay, we saw there was a problem with X, Y, and Z. We come back in court for the TRC. The judge is then going to say, have those things been addressed? Have those issues been resolved? Because if not, the judge at this point in time, prior to going to a trial, may want to schedule additional hearings. Things like evidentiary hearings if we file a motion to suppress, or we may have an identification type of a hearing if it's a driver problem in a DUI case. There's a number of different hearings that the court could set. It just depends on what the issues are. Sometimes if there's continuing negotiations that are happening, so say for example, we had a plea deal that we want to reject, we're waiting for the prosecutor's office to respond to our request for a better deal in what's called a deviation request, where there's still negotiations taking place. We're just waiting on some responses, some bureaucracy kind of things we're waiting on. If that happens, then what the judge may do is schedule the case for a second TRC, a second Trial Readiness Conference, but it doesn't happen a lot. The courts are kind of under a strict deadline that's imposed by the Arizona Supreme Court that says you have to wrap up DUI cases as quickly as possible. There's a deadline that they have to kind of squeeze the majority of their cases to get completed within that time frame, and if they don't, and it becomes a pattern, the judges can get into trouble. So they want to push these cases along quickly. Now, if there's good cause for a continuance, for a second TRC, the judges will of course grant that, but it needs to be good cause. It's not just because your attorney didn't get the work done or because you didn't provide your attorney with some additional mitigation information. It needs to be good, legal, justifiable cause in order for the judge to agree to do that. So really at this point, if you're going to be going into court, you should be prepared. You should have a good understanding of what's going on in your case. If you reach a TRC and you haven't spoken with your lawyer, or they don't know what your blood results are, or you haven't read the police report, you're probably behind the ball, quite frankly. You should have had that stuff done and reviewed and accomplished well before going into the TRC, because this is the deadline. This is the time where you need to make a decision. Are you going to accept the plea deal, or are you going to be moving forward towards a trial, meaning you're going to be scheduling your case for trial? It's a hard decision to make for a lot of people. They don't know what to do. And so this is where you need to rely on your attorney, rely on your public defender, listen to their advice and follow their guidance, because obviously we've been through this many times with many people, and we can help you assess the facts of your case. We can help you assess the realities, the likelihood of winning a trial, the severity of the punishment if we go to trial and lose, the likelihood of winning, getting acquitted, the likelihood of succeeding on any of the other evidentiary hearings that might lead up to a trial. And so there's a lot of things that happen right before a trial. We'll talk about that in the trial video, but this is a moment in time where you need to make that decision. You should be well prepared for it. You should have already submitted your deviation requests. You should talk to your attorney. Did they talk about a deviation from the standard policy, the standard offer that the Scottsdale prosecutor's office gives? Has your attorney had a conversation with that attorney, with that prosecutor, to discuss whether or not we can resolve the case without going to trial? Has all of your mitigation information been submitted? So those are some of the issues that you're going to want to talk about. And if you're approaching a TRC and those things have not been done, you're going to want to be sure to reach out to your attorneys and talk to them and tell them this needs to get done, because this is very important. Obviously, DUI charges are very, very important, and sometimes attorneys just can drop the ball on it. Not our office, of course. We represent a lot of people on these types of cases. We help them through it every single day. Our office is about 5 minutes north of the Scottsdale City Court. We're right on Scottsdale Road in Chaparral, just north of Old Town. So if this is something that you're getting concerned about, if you Googled this video or found us on YouTube because you're saying, I don't know what's going to happen at my trial readiness conference, give our office a call. It's something we'll walk you through. We'll have you come on in, we'll sit down, we'll talk to you, we'll see what we can do. If you are not happy with your current attorney and you want us to substitute in, we're happy to have that conversation with you. There are certain situations where that's a good idea and other situations where it's not a good idea. So we'll have that candid conversation with you and we'll see if we can hop in and help. One other thing I wanted to just make sure you understand is that a trial readiness conference, a TRC, it's not a trial. The word trial is in there, but this is a question that we get. Are we supposed to be ready for trial on this TRC date? No, you don't need to be ready for trial. In other words, you do not need to come into court in a suit and tie. You do not need to come into court prepared to testify. This is not a trial. It's not like what you see on the movies. The movies where everybody's called into court and there's police officers there and there's opening statements and closing statements and oral arguments and objections and those things. That is not what happens here. This is mostly off the record, meaning we're talking to the prosecutors back and forth. We may go on the record briefly or submit a written motion to continue. It's not unusual to ask for a continuance at a TRC either. So my point is, try not to stress out too badly about it. As long as you're prepared, you should go in and you should know what you're going to do. You should have made that decision prior to going into court. You should have had a conversation with your attorney about what's going to happen, what the plea offer is, whether I should take it or not. So you should be ready to go at this proceeding. But if not, like I said, give our office a call. It's a free case evaluation. We'll sit down with you. We'll see if we can help. We look forward to speaking with you soon, and thanks for watching.